What if Anakin Skywalker remembered everything he saw on Mortis, his destiny, his fall to the dark side, and the pain he would cause? Would he still become Darth Vader? Or change the fate of the galaxy forever? When a father chose not to erase Anakin Skywalker's memories on Mortis, everything changed. Anakin returned from the mystical realm still haunted by the visions he had seen. Visions of fire, betrayal, and darkness. He saw himself as Darth Vader, standing among the ruins of the Jedi Temple, Padme crying, and his friends falling. The images burned inside his mind like a scar that would never fade. From that day, Anakin began to look at everything differently. He could no longer see Palpatine as a simple mentor. Every word from the Chancellor now sounded like a trap. Every promise felt like poison. The more Palpatine tried to gain his trust, the more Anakin remembered the darkness he had witnessed in his own future. Padme noticed a change in him. His eyes, once filled with hope, now carried fear and confusion. One night, he told her everything about Mortis, about the father, and about the destiny he was meant to fulfill. She held his hands and whispered that the future was never set in stone. Her words gave him a fragile strength, a hope that maybe he could still choose a different path. When the Jedi Council grew suspicious of his behavior, Anakin tried to explain what he had seen, but they didn't believe him. They thought he was being manipulated by his emotions again. Feeling trapped between two worlds, Anakin sought guidance from Obi-Wan. His old master listened, silently troubled, realizing how deep the fear had rooted inside Anakin's heart. Then came the moment of truth. Palpatine revealed himself as Darth Sidious much earlier, trying to tempt Anakin with the promise of saving Padme. But this time, Anakin did not fall. He ignited his blue lightsaber, remembering every warning from a father. A fierce battle followed, the Force itself trembling between light and dark. With the help of Obi-Wan and Ahsoka, Anakin defeated Sidious, ending the Sith long before the fall of the Republic. He looked at his reflection afterward, still afraid, still unsure, but no longer bound by destiny. The galaxy began to heal. Anakin Skywalker, once destined to become Darth Vader, finally understood what true balance meant. Not control, not power, but peace within himself. When Anakin Skywalker left Mortis with his memories intact, the galaxy's fate shifted forever. The visions he'd seen on that mysterious world refused to fade. Each night, he dreamed of the mask, the darkness, and the screams. He saw himself becoming the monster called Darth Vader, and every time he woke up, the weight of that vision crushed his soul a little more. On the flight back to Coruscant, Obi-Wan Kenobi noticed a silence in his young friend. Anakin's eyes were distant, his mind trapped between fear and destiny. Obi-Wan asked if something was wrong, but Anakin simply said, "I saw my future, Master, and it's not something I can run from." Once back at the Jedi Temple, Anakin tried to lose himself in missions and meditation, but the Force kept whispering. He remembered the Father's words. That balance must come through him. But what did that truly mean? Was balance peace or destruction? Padme Amidala became his only comfort. He visited her more often, breaking every Jedi rule, desperate to hold on to something purer. One night, he confessed everything, his visions, his fear, and the shadow he had seen within himself. Padme, though shaken, told him that the future could be changed, that love could still guide him away from darkness. Her faith gave him a reason to fight his fate. Meanwhile, Chancellor Palpatine sensed something different in Anakin. The boy was distant, no longer easily swayed by praise or flattery. When Palpatine spoke of power, Anakin felt only coldness. He began to realize the man he once trusted might be the very darkness from his visions. During the Clone Wars, each battle pushed him closer to the edge, but now he resisted the pull of anger. He saved lives where once he would have sought revenge. Obi-Wan began to see a quiet change, the beginnings of a wiser Jedi. When the truth finally came out that Palpatine was Darth Sidious, Anakin was ready. Together with Obi-Wan and Ahsoka Tano, he confronted the Sith Lord. The battle was fierce, but this time, Anakin chose light over fear. And when the dust settled, the Chosen One stood not as a destroyer, but as a savior who had finally broken destiny's chain. When Anakin Skywalker returned from Mortis with his memories still alive inside him, he felt like a man carrying the weight of 2 lifetimes. He remembered the father's calm warning, the son's seductive darkness, and the daughter's sacrifice. But what haunted him most was a vision of himself, wearing black armor, breathing through a machine, and destroying everything he once loved. That image refused to leave his mind. Every time he looked at Padme Amidala, fear whispered in his heart. He had seen her crying as he turned against the Jedi. He had seen her fall because of his anger. But this time, he swore he would never let that happen. He promised himself that the future would change. The Jedi Council sensed something different about him. Yoda could feel the storm inside the young knight. Obi-Wan Kenobi tried to reach out, asking what troubled him, but Anakin couldn't bring himself to tell the truth. How could he say he had seen his own darkness? How could he admit he had seen the end of the Jedi? Palpatine continued his slow, dangerous game. He praised Anakin, feeding his pride, testing his loyalty. But the words no longer worked as they once did. Anakin remembered how easily the future version of himself had fallen for those same lies. So he smiled politely, but deep inside, he began to build a quiet resistance. When the Clone Wars grew worse, the burden inside Anakin only grew heavier. Every time he raised his lightsaber, he wondered if he was one step closer to becoming the man from his vision. Yet, the more he feared it, the more he fought against it. Padme's kindness, Ahsoka Tano's faith, and Obi-Wan's guidance became his anchors. Then the moment came when Palpatine revealed his true face, Darth Sidious. But this time, Anakin didn't hesitate. He already knew this moment was coming. The choice that once destroyed him now became his redemption. With Obi-Wan and Ahsoka by his side, he faced Sidious in a battle that shook the very core of the Force. Light clashed with darkness. Prophecy met defiance. And for the first time, Anakin chose peace over fear. The Chosen One finally understood. The future only controls those who refuse to change it. When Anakin Skywalker left Mortis with his memories untouched, he returned to the galaxy carrying knowledge that no mortal was meant to bear. He could still hear the father's voice in his mind, calm yet heavy with warning. He could still see the son's cold eyes filled with ambition, and the daughter's light fading as she gave her life to save him. But above all, he remembered his own face twisted by hate, hidden beneath the black mask of Darth Vader. That memory became his shadow. Every moment after Mortis felt different. The stars seemed dimmer, and the force around him felt louder. He began to sense ripples in every life he touched, small shifts that could shape the destiny he had already seen. When he looked at Obi-Wan Kenobi, he no longer saw just a teacher. He saw a brother whose death was once part of his dark future. When he looked at Padme Amidala, he saw both his deepest love and his greatest fear. Padme noticed a change in him almost immediately. He was gentler now, but distant. One night, she asked what haunted him, and he told her a part of the truth, that he had seen a world where he failed her, where his choices destroyed everything. She took his hand and told him that love was stronger than destiny. For a moment, her words silenced the storm inside him, but peace never lasted long. Chancellor Palpatine continued to whisper, offering guidance and friendship, pretending to care. Yet Anakin could see through the mask now. He remembered the dark figure who had tempted him in his vision, and the Chancellor's voice sounded exactly the same. Every smile from Palpatine felt like a serpent's hiss. When the war reached its peak, and suspicion grew among the Jedi Council, Anakin stood at a crossroads. The choice that had once broken him returned, to save the one he loved or to protect the light. This time, he faced it with clear eyes. When Palpatine revealed his true identity as Darth Sidious, Anakin didn't falter. He remembered the darkness, and he chose to destroy it. With Obi-Wan and Ahsoka Tano beside him, he fought for balance, not as a prophecy, but as a man who had finally learned the truth. When Anakin Skywalker returned from Mortis with his memories untouched, he was no longer the same man. The things he had seen there, The visions of fire, the fall of the Jedi, and his own transformation into Darth Vader burned inside him like an unending storm. The Father's voice echoed in his thoughts, reminding him that balance and the Force would come through him. But what kind of balance? The question never left his mind. On the journey back, Obi-Wan Kenobi watched his friend sit in silence. Anakin's usual confidence was gone, replaced by something colder, quieter. When Obi-Wan asked if something was troubling him, Anakin simply said, "I've seen what I'm meant to become, and I won't let it happen." Back on Coruscant, the Jedi Council began to notice his growing restlessness. He meditated for hours but found no peace. The visions kept returning. Padme crying, the temple burning, and his own voice filled with rage. Fear grew inside him, but this time he turned it into determination. He confided in Padme Amidala, telling her that he had seen a dark version of himself, one who destroyed everything they loved. She held his hand and told him the future was not fixed. Her belief gave him strength, and he decided to change the path he once saw. Meanwhile, Chancellor Palpatine continued to weave his web. He praised Anakin's strength and whispered about the limits of the Jedi Order. But now, Anakin heard the danger behind every word. He could sense the darkness in the man's heart, the same presence he had felt on Mortis within the sun. When the time came and Palpatine finally revealed himself as Darth Sidious, Anakin was ready. There was no confusion, no hesitation. He saw the monster behind the mask and refused to let history repeat itself. The duel that followed shook the Republic. With Obi-Wan and Ahsoka Tano at his side, Anakin faced Sidious with courage and clarity. He fought not for power, but for peace, for the galaxy, for Padme, and for himself. In the end, the man who was meant to fall rose higher than anyone expected. The chosen one fulfilled his destiny, not through destruction, but through redemption. When Anakin Skywalker left the strange world of Mortis with all his memories intact, something deep inside him began to change. He could still feel the weight of what he'd seen, the dark armor, the burning worlds, the sound of his own breath inside the mask. The memory of becoming Darth Vader was not just a vision. It was a warning. The Father had told him that power without balance would destroy him, and now those words followed him everywhere. During the flight back, Obi-Wan Kenobi noticed a difference in his apprentice. Anakin's usual impatience was gone, replaced by quiet thought. When Obi-Wan asked what was wrong, Anakin replied softly, "I've seen what happens if I lose control. I can't let it happen, Master. I won't." Obi-Wan didn't understand, but he could feel the truth in his tone. Back on Coruscant, the noise of the city felt distant to Anakin. He tried to focus on the war, on his duty as a Jedi, but every decision reminded him of the future he wanted to prevent. He saw anger in others and recognized pieces of himself in them. For the first time, he understood how thin the line was between hero and villain. Padme Amidala saw the change too. Anakin spent nights staring at the stars, lost in thought. When she asked what troubled him, he told her pieces of the truth, that he had seen a version of himself consumed by fear and hate. She told him that love, not fear, was what would save him. Her words became his anchor. Meanwhile, Chancellor Palpatine watched from the shadows. He noticed that his influence over Anakin was slipping. The young Jedi had grown distant, less trusting, more aware. The dark whispers that once tempted him now made him uneasy. Anakin began to suspect that the man he once called a friend was not what he seemed. When the final confrontation came and Palpatine revealed his identity as Darth Sidious, Anakin was ready. He did not seek power. He sought freedom from the darkness. With Obi-Wan and Ahsoka Tano by his side, he faced the Sith Lord and chose the light. The man who was meant to fall refused his destiny, proving that even prophecy could be rewritten by courage and love. When Anakin Skywalker returned from Mortis with his memories untouched, he carried with him the truth of what he was destined to become. He could still feel the echo of the dark future that awaited him, the mask, the fire, and the sound of Padme's voice fading away. He remembered every word the Father had spoken about balance, about destiny, and about the danger of giving in to fear. That memory haunted him more than any battle ever could. On the journey back, Obi-Wan Kenobi noticed his friend's silence. Anakin's eyes, once filled with determination, now carried a weight that words had not described. Obi-Wan asked him what was troubling him, but Anakin only said, "I've seen what happens if I fail." Those few words stayed with Obi-Wan for a long time. When they returned to Coruscant, life went on as if nothing had changed, but inside Anakin, everything was different. The Senate debates, the Jedi Council meetings, the war, they all felt meaningless compared to what he had seen. He began to question not only the Jedi Order, but also his own heart. Could destiny really be changed, or was he only delaying the inevitable? Padme Amidala became the only person he could confide in. Late at night, he told her about the visions. Not in full detail, but enough to make her understand his fear. She reminded him that the future was built by the choices of the present. Her belief in him became his light in the darkness. But Chancellor Palpatine, ever patient, continued to watch. He could sense something new inside Anakin. Awareness. The seeds of manipulation he had planted for years began to die. Anakin was more careful now, more guarded. He listened, but he no longer believed. When the time came and Palpatine revealed himself as Darth Sidious, Anakin did not hesitate. He had already lived this moment once before in his vision on Mortis. This time he would change it. With Obi-Wan and Ahsoka Tano fighting beside him, Anakin faced the darkness and destroyed it. The future that once ended in fire was rewritten with hope, and the Chosen One fulfilled his destiny, not through fear, but through choice. When Anakin Skywalker returned from Mortis with all his memories intact, the Force around him felt heavier, more alive, and more dangerous. He remembered every second of that strange world, the father's calm wisdom, the son's cold hunger for power, and the daughter's light fading into silence. But above all, he remembered his own transformation, the fire, the rage, the armor, and the pain. He had seen himself as Darth Vader, and it was a vision that tore at his soul. Obi-Wan Kenobi could sense the unease in his friend. Anakin no longer joked during missions or argued with the same fire. His thoughts were distant, his eyes lost in shadows only he could see. When Obi-Wan asked what troubled him, Anakin said softly, "I've seen the end of who I am, and I don't want to be that man." On Coruscant, the war raged on, but Anakin's focus began to shift. Every order from the Jedi Council, every whisper from the Senate, felt like pieces of a puzzle leading toward the dark future he wanted to prevent. He watched Chancellor Palpatine closely now. The older man's kind words once comforted him, but now they carried a hidden edge that Anakin could no longer ignore. Padme Amidala became his sanctuary. In her presence, he found peace that the Jedi teachings never gave him. Late at night, he told her about the darkness he had seen within himself. She reminded him that destiny could be changed, that love and light were stronger than fear. Her faith gave him the strength to keep fighting his inner battle. But the Force has a way of testing those who try to escape fate. The visions from Mortis began to blur with reality. Sometimes, Anakin heard the voice of the Father reminding him that balance required sacrifice. He didn't yet know what that sacrifice would be. When the truth finally came out, that Palpatine was Darth Sidious, Anakin's path became clear. He had seen this choice before, and this time, he was ready. With Obi-Wan and Ahsoka Tano beside him, he fought the Sith Lord with courage and clarity. The darkness that once owned his future was shattered. Anakin Skywalker, the Chosen One, finally proved that even destiny could be defeated by hope. When Anakin Skywalker left Mortis with his memories still alive inside him, the galaxy's fate quietly began to shift. The images he had seen that would never fade. The dark armor, the red lightsaber, the sound of his own breath echoing in the emptiness. He had seen himself standing over the fallen, Padme's voice crying out, and the Jedi Temple in flames. Those memories clung to him like shadows, whispering of what could come if he ever gave in to anger again. Obi-Wan Kenobi noticed the difference immediately. Anakin no longer acted out of pride or frustration. He was quieter now, thoughtful, almost distant. During one mission, Obi-Wan asked him if something had changed. Anakin only replied, I've seen the man I could become, and I'll do anything to make sure he never exists. Back on Coruscant, he found himself torn between the Jedi and his secret love for Padme Amidala. The visions made him realize how much she meant to him, and how easily he could lose her. When he told her about what he'd seen, she was frightened, but she reminded him that the future was built by choices, not by fear. Her words gave him hope, but his heart still carried the weight of prophecy. Chancellor Palpatine continued to play his dangerous game, trying to draw Anakin closer, offering power and influence under the disguise of friendship. But this time, the trap was weaker. Anakin recognized the same seductive tone he had heard from the son on Mortis. Every smile, every promise. It all felt like the same path that led to darkness. The Clone Wars raged on, testing Anakin's resolve again and again. But instead of falling deeper into anger, he began to lead with compassion and restraint. Ahsoka Tano noticed a change too, feeling that her master had grown wiser, more in tune with the light. When the truth finally came, when Palpatine revealed himself as Darth Sidious, Anakin was no longer afraid. He had seen this future before, and he was ready to rewrite it. With Obi-Wan and Ahsoka by his side, he faced the Sith Lord and chose the light. This time, the Chosen One did not fall. He rose. When Anakin Skywalker returned from Mortis with his memories intact, the galaxy felt somehow different, as if the Force itself had shifted around him. He could still hear the Father's voice in his mind, warning him about the balance between light and dark. He could still see the son's hunger for power and the daughter's quiet sacrifice. But what haunted him most was the vision of himself, the black mask, the burning world, and Padme's tears. The memory was too vivid to forget, too painful to escape. On the way back to Coruscant, Obi-Wan Kenobi sensed a storm within his friend. Anakin was not the same man who had left. He was quieter now, his confidence replaced by a deep unease. When Obi-Wan asked what was wrong, Anakin replied, "I've seen the darkness that waits for me. I won't let it win." Once home, Anakin tried to focus on his duties, but his mind never rested. Every order from the Jedi Council, every whisper from Chancellor Palpatine, reminded him of the future he had seen. He began to study the Force more deeply, seeking answers in meditation rather than anger. For the first time, he started to understand what balance truly meant. Padme Amidala noticed a change as well. Her husband's temper had softened, his tone gentler, his eyes more distant. When she asked him about Mortis, he told her parts of the truth, that he had seen himself becoming something terrible. She took his hand and said, "Then you already know what not to become." Her faith steadied him, reminding him that his destiny was not unchangeable. But Palpatine, patient as ever, continued to tempt him. He spoke of power, of control, of saving the ones he loved. Yet now, Anakin could hear the lies behind the charm. He recognized the same darkness that had consumed the sun. When the moment finally came and Palpatine revealed his true identity as Darth Sidious, Anakin did not waver. He had seen this before. He was ready. Together with Obi-Wan and Ahsoka Tano, he fought the Sith Lord with everything he had. The battle was fierce, but this time, Anakin stood firm in the light. He fulfilled his destiny not by falling, but by choosing, and the galaxy was forever changed.